The Indiana Fever just walked into one of the most hostile arenas in the WNBA, faced a championship-caliber defense built around a 6'11" international monster, and completely dismantled them from the opening tip. Nobody saw it coming. And the player who sparked the entire explosion was the rookie everyone forgot to watch. Tonight, we are breaking down exactly what happened, why it changes everything for this team, and the roster decisions that could either build a dynasty or hand a weapon directly to a rival franchise. Stay locked in, because this gets deep, fast. Nobody gave Indiana a realistic chance walking into Barclays Center, looking purely at the personnel matchup. That skepticism made complete sense. The New York Liberty had spent the entire offseason building something that resembled a defensive fortress more than a basketball team. Breanna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and then Han Shu, standing 6'11" in the paint, like a physical law opponents simply were not allowed to break. The mainstream narrative was simple and completely dismissive. The Fever were young, unproven, under pressure, and dangerously dependent on Caitlyn Clark as their only genuine offensive weapon. The thinking was straightforward. Once the Liberty's front line started imposing their physical will, Indiana would fall behind early and spend the second half chasing a game they could never catch. That was the comfortable prediction. It was also embarrassingly wrong. Instead of absorbing punishment and playing scared, the Fever attacked immediately. They pushed the pace, went straight at the paint, and used blinding transition speed to overwhelm a Liberty team that expected to control the tempo from the very first possession. It was fast, aggressive, and delivered as a statement in real time to every franchise currently building a game plan against Indiana. The message was unmistakable. This team did not come to survive the moment. They came to own it. And the player who ignited that entire offensive explosion was the one rookie on this roster that most people either completely overlooked or dramatically underestimated. What happened next genuinely surprised everyone in that building. Raven Johnson was not just a rookie trying to survive her first professional appearance. She was the rookie quietly overshadowed by the single biggest media phenomenon in WNBA history. Every backcourt conversation started and ended with Caitlyn Clark. Johnson existed mostly as a footnote, a defensive specialist whose floor was established but whose ceiling remained a widely debated question mark. The defensive reputation was never the concern. Anyone who watched her at South Carolina already knew she was wired differently on that end. She treats every passing lane like a personal challenge, violently jumping into rotations, fighting through screens that would discourage most guards, and refusing opponents a single comfortable breath. That part of her game was considered settled. The offensive question was entirely different. Could she run professional half-court sets against elite defensive schemes? Could she coexist with Clark without the offense becoming a chaotic overlap of two guards fighting over the same real estate? 9 minutes answered everything. Within those 9 minutes, she had already filled the stat sheet. But the raw numbers were not the impressive part. The impressive part was the composure. It was not frantic or desperate. It was calm, measured, and intelligent in a way you typically associate with players 5 years into their professional careers. The coast-to-coast layup through Han Shu and the Liberty forwards told the complete story. She read the floor, identified the angle, and finished through contact with zero hesitation. That is not athleticism carrying a mistake into a good outcome. That is a player who simply belongs here. All offseason, opposing coaching staffs had the same conversation. It started with one sentence. Trap Clark the second she crosses half court, make her uncomfortable, and force everyone else to beat you 4-on-3. It was the logical, seemingly airtight defensive solution to Indiana's entire offensive identity. If the offense runs through Clark's gravity, eliminate that gravity at the source and the structure collapses. That blueprint was not just theory. It was actively deployed against Indiana last season with measurable success. Defenders would physically batter Clark before she settled into sets. Double teams arrived before she took 2 dribbles past half court. And because the supporting cast had real limitations, That strategy at least created debate. Here is why that blueprint is now completely and mathematically finished. The moment Raven Johnson shares the floor with Clark, the geometry of the defense permanently breaks. Send a trap at Clark 30 feet from the basket, and you are making an immediate confession. You are pulling a defender entirely off their assignment. And the player left unaccounted for is a guard with elite court vision and the demonstrated ability to read rotating defenses and punish them instantly. Clark draws the trap. Johnson reads the rotation before it even completes. The ball moves faster than any defender can physically adjust. Mitchell catches clean in her shooting pocket, with feet already set. No defense in this league can consistently solve that equation. Clark is the gravitational force. Johnson is the surgeon who exploits every void she creates. The rest of the league's defensive coordinators have a serious problem. 2 for 10 from the field, 5 three-point attempts, with only 1 converting. Visibly frustrated at times, physically tangled with Liberty defenders who had clearly been coached to make every possession an uncomfortable experience. By any conventional measure, this was not a good shooting night for Indiana's franchise cornerstone. Here is why that almost does not matter. And here is why the fact that it does not matter should genuinely concern every defensive coordinator watching this film. Even shooting poorly, Clark commanded the full and undivided attention of the entire Liberty defensive shell. Every time she touched the ball, a minimum of 2 defenders immediately reoriented their positioning around her location. Every screen in her direction triggered immediate communication breakdowns. Every decision-making moment forced the defense into calculations that cost them attention everywhere else on the floor. 4 assists. An aggressive floater over outstretched Liberty arms, showing she was actively hunting the paint rather than forcing perimeter shots into impossible coverage. And a collective offensive impact that produced real points for teammates despite her individual numbers looking disappointing on a surface-level box score read. Very good players need to perform well personally for their team to function. Elite players impact the game so fundamentally that teammates thrive even when the star is limited. Clark's gravity is so deeply embedded in every defensive game plan that opponents cannot afford to ignore her even when she is missing shots. Every miss she takes still creates an advantage somewhere on the floor. Imagine what happens when she actually gets going. Kelsey Mitchell has spent years being one of the most quietly underappreciated scorers in this league. She does not generate the cultural conversation Clark does. She does not have the mainstream crossover appeal. What she has is a jump shot that borders on automatic, a basketball IQ that makes her almost impossible to scheme against on the perimeter, and a motor that never stops. 17 minutes, 18 points, 7 of 12 from the field, including 2 threes. Those are not supporting player numbers. Those are the numbers of a scorer so thoroughly in rhythm that the game looked genuinely easy from the outside. The Supermax contract that generated so much off-season debate, after 1 game it already looks like a bargain. Sophie Cunningham brought something entirely different but equally valuable. 13 points on 5 of 8 shooting in 14 minutes, but the raw numbers only tell part of the story. Cunningham set screens hard enough that defenders genuinely dread the contact. She contested every shot like a personal challenge. She pushed pace every time she touched the ball in open space. The possession that best summarized this offense happened in the second half. Cunningham screens for Clark on the perimeter. Clark reads the rotation and passes back to Cunningham. Cunningham immediately identifies Mitchell spotting up and delivers a perfect hockey assist for a wide-open sidestep 3. 3 players, 3 decisions made in under 2 seconds. 1 completely uncontested shot. When the ball moves with that level of collective intelligence behind every decision, the math simply does not work in the defense's favor. The rebounding numbers told a story that should create at least some discomfort heading into the regular season. New York Liberty out-rebounded Indiana 34-27. In isolation, that differential might sound manageable. When you understand Indiana's offensive identity, it becomes significantly more alarming. This team's attack is built entirely on transition. They want Clark and Johnson pushing pace before opponents can organize their defense. That requires defensive rebounds. Every missed board is not just a second-chance opportunity for the opponent. It is a stolen possession that prevents Indiana from running the exact style of offense they are most dangerous in. The primary architect of that rebounding disadvantage was Han Shu. At 6'11", she represents a physical reality. Indiana's interior personnel is simply not currently built to contain 20 points in 22 minutes. Shot attempts altered throughout the game. A persistent deep post presence that fundamentally changed how Indiana's bigs could operate near the rim. Michaela Timpson and Aisha Hines-Allen both had difficult stretches against her. That was not a failure of effort. It was a mathematical reality. Hines-Allen, who physically occupies more of the paint than conventional defensive schemes can comfortably handle. The quiet hero was Monique Billings. She displaced Han Shu from preferred positioning through pure intelligence and relentless boxing out effort on multiple possessions. Those plays never appear in a highlights package. They absolutely appear in championship film room conversations. Perimeter defense was elite. Interior defense has serious work ahead. Both things are equally true. 72 hours. That was roughly the window Indiana's front office had to make personnel decisions that will shape this organization for years. The preseason roster was genuinely loaded, arguably the deepest training camp group in the entire WNBA, filled with players who performed in ways that made cutting anyone genuinely painful to contemplate. The salary cap does not negotiate, roster limits do not bend for sentiment, and the players fighting for their professional lives in that final preseason game were doing exactly that. Jessica Timmons arrived without first-round fanfare or can't-miss prospect narratives. What she brought was a pull-up jumper that is genuinely smooth and free-throw mechanics that speak to deliberate, detailed skill development. Her ability to create her own shot off the dribble translates cleanly to the professional game because it depends on footwork and timing rather than athleticism alone. If Indiana lets her walk, she will not stay unemployed long. Several rebuilding franchises are actively hunting exactly what she offers. Justine Pat carries a different and more urgent level of conversation. She stands 6'4" and shoots threes with a release point that is physically almost impossible for standard-sized defenders to contest. 2 of 3 from beyond the arc in restricted preseason minutes against a prepared defense. Reports suggest the front office has been monitoring her development closely throughout camp, though internal deliberations naturally remain speculative. What is not speculative is the tape, and the tape shows a player rival franchises are already studying very carefully. Letting her walk would be an organizational mistake people discuss for years. One preseason game, one hostile arena, one rookie debut that answered every question anyone had about this roster's ceiling. The Indiana Fever walked into Brooklyn as underdogs and left having sent a message the rest of the league cannot ignore. Raven Johnson is the real deal. Clark's gravity breaks defenses even when her shot is completely off. Mitchell and Cunningham are the most dangerous beneficiaries of that system in the entire league. The interior vulnerabilities are real, but correctable. And the roster decisions coming in the next 72 hours will either reinforce this foundation or quietly hand a weapon to a rival franchise. The regular season has not even started yet. The evaluations are just beginning. And if this backcourt continues developing the chemistry we saw in Brooklyn, the Indiana Fever are not just a contender. They are a genuine long-term problem for every team in this league. You have been warned. Stay locked with my channel. Simply Explained for more WNBA updates.